Hello, this is Sara Soliman, BIM manager at Prime Engineering Consultants and a PhD researcher at the University of Salford, Manchester, UK. Today's session, it will be regarding the strategic transformation for a smooth switch to the digital construction. Let's start with the project aim or the presentation aim. It's to develop a practical way for any engineering firm, whatever it's a consultant or a contractor. But if this engineering firm would like to make a smooth transition to the BIM environment and digital construction considering lean principles, so this is the session that you would like to attend. And to achieve such aim, there are some objectives and some contents that we are going to investigate. The investigation would go through a process. First, would be investigating the BIM, pros and cons, the maturity, and then to understand the relation between BIM and lean principles. And finally, it would be giving a smooth transition and methodology in steps, how to make such transformation. Supposedly, the presentation would answer the questions of the audience. Why do I need to understand the BIM? What are the opportunities and threats that I might face if I'm going to implement BIM process? And then to investigate what are the lean requirements in order to be involved in the process. And finally, to be discussing the relationship between BIM and lean and how do they interact together. So let's first understand what is BIM. BIM is not a software. No, it's not. It's methodology. It's a complete process. When you are targeting a project from the early stages of the concept stage up to the use stage, because once the project is handed over, it's not the end. It is the start of the running phase, which is the most of the phase. Let's consider that if a project continues to be in construction, design and construction, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, whatever the time that have been consumed in the design and construction, it would be nothing compared to the living of the building. The building might live for 100 years. So within these 100 years, the building requires maintenance in order to be feasible and to be used. So BIM is introduced to support the building to be maintained and used properly. Besides the saving during the design and construction, improving the quality, enhancing the methodology. So in order to know well how the process is moving, it's worth to understand how the BIM has been matured and moved from one phase to the other. Initially, people were not using any computer. They were using pencils, drawings. So we consider this level 0 because there is nothing in it. And then because of the shortage of the resources, complexity of the buildings, the requirements for higher buildings, the shift was towards the computer-aided design, CAD. And it was depending on using of a 2D drawings, generation of 2D drawings. For sure, it supported a lot, but it didn't solve the problem of the complexity of the buildings because they are still complex. They still need more coordination. Information was neglected in such way because the information cannot be loaded to a 2D drawings. They are written even using the computer, but finally it's the human input and the transformation from the information from one phase to another still is causing a problem. And then the shift to the level 2, when we consider the presence of BIM. So in such way, BIM is introduced, and we can understand that there are some dimensions in the BIM that will be discussed later. 3D, 4D, 5D, and for now, the information has been considered, and it's moving from one phase to another. Models are not only for making a presentation or a 3D presentation, no, but they are actually used and they are transmitted in order to support the projects, not only from the visualization perspective. So in such way, it's worth to understand that in a simpler way, that's in the AutoCAD, it was mentioned as 0. And then we moved to the mix between 2D and 3D. We consider it level 1. And then we moved to level 2 when we have BIM. But what's coming? What's next? What we do have next? We can say that the future is the IBIM, integrated BIM, We're still in the transition in between level 2 and level 3, but level 3 is the future, and that's what we are all targeting towards it. And then if you want to go deeper in level 2, the phase that we are currently working towards it, we can find that there are some dimensions that we do need to understand, starting from having a 2D drawings up to currently, some mentioned that there was 9 dimension, 10 dimension, others they're mentioning that currently we have the 11th dimension, whatever the name of the dimension and whatever the content of the dimension. But the information that are linked to this, they were to be included in the project. Not only having them in the document, not only mentioning that we are implementing 4D BIM. 4D BIM, for example, then you do need to consider the time within your package, within your submissions. So it's not only having a construction video, no, but we are using it to relate to the site, to manage the activities. So we do need always look for the content of the dimension, get the proper action, and get the benefit of the dimension. And that's in a brief. What's the main principle? What are the main reasons that we do need to implement BIM? This is from the UK Construction 2025 vision. They mentioned that these are the targets that have to be set by 2025. The cost shall be lowered 33%, the delivery shall be faster 50%, lower emissions by 50%, and improvements in the exports by 50%. And it's known and discovered that the traditional method in the construction would never achieve such percentages. So the development and the movement towards BIM is mandatory in order to work towards this vision. So what the question would be now, if I want to make the transition within my company, what are the focuses and what do I need? What are the opportunities to make such shifting? From this, we have to go to the principles. There are main principles in order to implement the BIM properly. People, which is the most important factor, because those people who are going to manage the information, make the input, make the modeling, make the production, communicate with each others. So if you want a successful BIM story, then to work towards the people, invest in them. Technology, no one can deny that the importance of the technology in the process. But currently, we do have a lot of softwares, a lot of service providers, so the technology is presented. We do have it. The issue is that the user cannot use such technology. Social and business, and for sure, it's a very important factor in the success of the BIM principles, because communicating and making a general environment that's acting as one towards them is required. There is no more acceptance that they consider in a special stakeholder deals in different way now, because the target of the BIM is to make the completion of the project properly, on time, lowest cost, enhance the quality, and proper information management. Among the BIM uses that we don't need to make a comparison, that we are not in a challenge. The challenge is to accomplish the project. It's not to focus on each other's. So this will let us go through what are the obstacles facing the BIM. The main obstacle and the most problem is the people. If it's solved, if the people are in a line with that, we do need to implement them and we do need to learn, they would do. Once they start a project, our target is to focus on the project and to accomplish it properly, they would complete in the proper way. So the problem is not the people. The problem is that some understand that BIM is a software. Now, it's not a software. It's a complete methodology. And some might mention that BIM is for only mega projects. No, it's not. It's all, even for a guard room, for a single villa, BIM is needed for this. Because either it's a small villa or a complex building, you do need to maintain this building and to work on in the running phase of this building. So you do need BIM. You do need to save it, because if it's a small project and it requires, let's say, 6 to 8 to 10 months to be accomplished, if BIM is implemented, But if not, you would take 2 years in order to accomplish it. This is a complete loss. And for sure, no one wants to lose. And among the problems of the BIM is the trust. As mentioned before, some enterprises are acting as if they are chasing each other for a project. And this is not true. We are supposed to work collaboratively towards the project, not against each other's. Another problem raised is that the titles or the new positions that have been used. You can see now that there is a requirement for a BIM specialist, BIM workflow consultant, BIM coordinator, BIM manager, digital transformation manager. Some titles that were not presented before, and for sure these new titles have been raised because of the need for these qualifications in the market. But that doesn't mean that the old employees are not would not be working anymore. No, that's not true, because we're enhancing, we are developing, and that's what we do actually need. So BIM process requires the understanding of the IPD, integrated project delivery, because it's targeting the same place. We can see that in this chart that in using AutoCAD, all the activities were done in serious way, linear way. But when BIM is introduced, now they have been categorized and have been broken down to parallel tasks. But when IPD is involved, these parallel tasks are merged together because the main issue or the main principle of the IPD is that it's building trust. And we are having, we can say it a common contract because we're all working towards a common project. And from this, we can understand that if it's a design in the construction process, the benefits, the BIM and IPD involvement, because both of them, BIM and IPD, they are targeting the same results. So when they are implemented together, IPD is mainly to make the information management easier and smoother. And it's about shifting the way that we are used to do the things. So when we go through this, we would go back to the dimensions of BIM, and we could see that among this slide, this one, we can see that in the 9th dimension, it's mentioning lean construction or lean principles. It's now too many are discussing that we do need different styles of management in order to present the BIM in the proper way or to control the BIM process. If lean principles, lean management techniques have been applied, they would have impressive results for the overall BIM process. And that's a small market analysis to understand if you're ready or not in order to implement this one. From this analysis, we can see that even those that don't understand or didn't learn before or have been implemented before lean principles, but they are stable and know that it was to learn that lean and it was to merge this integration between BIM and lean. So from the knowledge gap, we are ready to understand and to make such merge. But still, there are some issues for providing the proper way to implement and to make such merge between the lean principles and the management of the. So the relationship between BIM and lean, it's very freeze and very constant. We do need to have cost saving, time saving, improve the quality, suitability of the projects, merging all these together to have a proper construction. So it's the same, and we do need all of them together. And that's the final market analysis. It's mentioning that within the next 10 years, it was focusing, the question was focusing on the experience, the people experience. Within the next 10 years, do you believe that the BIM and lean would undergo together, work together? And most of the majority with that, they would be having a high impact. So from the knowledge gap or the people understanding, we think that we are ready for this. It's only about the methodology and the way that the people are going to implement them together. In this one, let's provide a practical way for an organization. Let's say that an organization requires to make such transition towards BIM and lean, and they want to make it together, align together, because they are making transition from the traditional method to the BIM method. So it's one time. They need to accomplish the story one time. What are the steps and how did they start? The start is always by defining the vision and the philosophy. Because if you're working towards using the traditional method for ages, then shifting to the BIM and Lean requires to update the vision and to update the philosophy. Once the vision and philosophy has been updated, you can share it among your team, your employees, whoever involved in the decision making, because such vision and philosophy will control and have an impact on all the coming steps. Once it's phrased, it shall be spread among all the employees and among all of the people that are involved in the company. And then the second phase is to make an analysis. And in such way, in this phase, the analysis would have two breakdown. One for the hardware and one for the software. Well, software, it's not the software, it's about the people themselves. You are not judging the people, but you are analyzing their skills and to understand what actually they can do and what they don't do, what do they could learn and what they don't learn, what are new positions that shall be occupied in the company. This is in a way, after that, you would understand that your people shall have a customized training sessions using a special format, and you do need new hires, including these requirements based on the results of the analysis. In parallel, there shall be an upgrade for the software and the hardware, because all computers, all PCs and laptops would not be able to run the special programs, the softwares that are going to generate the 3D, 5D, 4D, whatever the dimension that you are targeting. But all computers would not be able to do this, so it requires upgrade. It requires purchasing some license. And for sure, it's not in one day you would make the complete shift. It takes some time, so there must be a plan for this. After having the hardware and software upgrade, the people's upgrade, upgrading their skills, their knowledge, getting the new hires, then it's the time to have a pilot project. Once the pilot project has been conducted within the company, analysis for the results of the project shall be used as an input to a new cycle of improvement. Once you did the pilot project, this doesn't mean that you are fine and that all the items have been completed within the company and the company is ready now to transfer the knowledge and to work on a project towards a client. But this pilot project puts all the problems on the surface, which is part of the Lean principles. All the problems would be on the surface to understand what are the future requirements and what are the standardizations that we need. After making such analysis, we go back to the previous step to analyze the people. If we do need to make any kind of another upgrade for the hardware, the software, then we would run the second iteration, which is the second pilot project. Once the pilot project has been successful, the vision is accomplished, the philosophy is praised, people are now ready, we do have the setup, the infrastructure, the hardware and software, and then we are ready to share this knowledge with our clients and to transfer it to others. But before this step, it was to have a standardization for the process, creating the company or the enterprise manuals, whatever you can call it. You can call it manual, code of practice, standard, guideline, whatever its name, but the process itself within the enterprise shall be standardized. And this standardization would support the continuous improvement, because we can see that by the first pilot project and then assessment, and then second pilot project, then an assessment. It would go, by the second assessment, hopefully the company would be ready for the smooth transition or to move towards the client and to propagate. If it's fine, it's okay. If it's not, so again, it shall comes back. And that would a typical cycle, a typical workflow that happens all over the projects. Once the company have been phased and it's working, already have been digitalized and working towards project, by the end of each project, there shall be a case study, lessons learned, analysis for what the company have achieved from this project, what we can improve, and what it was accomplished in the wrong way, and we would avoid this in the next. This would create an environment, a learning environment, and for sure it would have impact on the employees themselves and on the company. So it's double benefit. And this would support the continuous improvement for the whole process. It's not only for this. So by this stage, the company would be ready for the dealing with clients. It has been transferred and it's stable and moving towards the proper way. Thank you so much. And I would be very happy to receive your questions. Thank you.